We start in the United States, where Hurricane Milton has slammed into the western coast of Florida. So these are the pictures we're receiving now live from Tampa. The entire Tampa Bay region and areas to the south are at greatest risk of the storm, which is carrying winds of more than 200 kilometers an hour. The storm tore the roof off the Tampa Bay Rays home stadium, Tropicana Field in St. Petersburg. Pieces of non-retractable roof were flapping in the winds, and according to WFTS-TV in Tampa, there were no reported injuries at the site. The state governor, Ron DeSantis, said that the time for safe evacuation had passed. He warned people left behind against going outside until officials told them it is safe to do so. Bridges have been closed because of fears of a 4-meter-high storm surge. Before the hurricane made landfall, strong winds ripped up trees, damaged mobile homes and left hundreds of thousands without power. At least 10 tornadoes were reported and millions of people fled the area most at risk, but some have chosen to stay behind. This was the Florida governor just a short time ago.
Stay inside and stay off the roads. Floodwaters and rushing storm surge are very dangerous. And I would say that's even more so in spite of everything the state did to help these local communities hit by Helene remove a lot of debris, and they did move a lot of debris over the last 72 hours. You're going to have new debris created, and you still have some of that old debris in some of those places. So there's going to be hazards in the storm surge and in the flood waters.
Well, Genevieve Judge is Public Information Officer of Sarasota County Government. You can see her here. She joins us now live from Sarasota. Hello again to you, Genevieve. Just give us the latest on what's happening where you are. You're just south, aren't you, of Tampa Bay, for those viewers around the world?
That is correct. We are in Sarasota County, which is just south of Tampa Bay on the west coast of Florida. And the National Hurricane Center, just after 8 o'clock yesterday evening here in Florida, shared with us that Hurricane Milton did make landfall in Sarasota County near Siesta Key with winds of approximately 120 miles an hour. So the storm moved through. We went through the eye, and now we are on the back end of the storm and still experiencing hazardous condition, high winds, and very heavy rain right now.
So not safe at all for those in Sarasota to leave their homes or wherever they are hunkering down at the moment?
No, not safe at all. That's correct. We really want folks to stay home until officials are able to give the all clear. And reason being is we don't know how much damage has been done yet. We're not through the storm yet. And we have our TFIT teams. Those are our tactical first end teams. And those are team members that are hunkered down here at the Sarasota County Emergency Operations Center, ready to go as soon as the winds subside and daylight arrives in just a couple of hours. And so we want to encourage folks to stay sheltered in place until conditions are safe for them to go out, because they could be hurt if they go out right now, especially in the dark. But then once the daylight arrives, there could be flooded roads, down power lines, down trees, different buildings that may have had damage to them. We just don't know yet. And so it's of the utmost importance for folks to stay home just for the safety of themselves and their families.
And Genevieve, I know it's very difficult for you to assess at this point, but are you getting a sense of the extent of the damage or not?
We're really not, because we have been sheltered in place since the winds reached a level that they needed to pull first responders off the road. But we are expecting, once we get eyes out into the community, that we're going to see some very destructive and catastrophic damage. Floridians, this is our third hurricane since August. Especially on this coast. And so, we know as Floridians, we're tired, we're weary, but we're resilient. And we've got team members that are ready to hit the ground as soon as daylight comes. And we're here for our community, and we're going to work together to get back online as soon as possible.
What is their first priority, your teams, when they can go out and assess what's going on?
Absolutely. Their first priority, once they're able to get out, is to go to our most traveled areas, the most populated areas, to really get an idea of the damage, whether it be trees that are down, buildings that are damaged. We want to clear roadways so when it is safe to do so, folks are able to get back to their homes. We know folks are anxious. Right now, we have approximately 11,000 individuals that sought refuge in our evacuation centers, and we have about 1,700 pets as well. And we know that they're anxious to get home, but our TFIT teams, our tactical first entry teams, their first assignment is to get out and assess the damage in the most populated areas so we can decide if it's safe or not safe for folks to go back out to their homes.
It's very challenging, isn't it, with no power, because of course for those who may be in distress or in great difficulty, they can't contact people.
It is very hard. We've had connectivity connecting with you this morning, and just looking at our dashboard that's right here to my right, it's approximately 82% of our county right now is without power, and that's approximately 250,000 people. And so that's hard to be in right now, and it's going to be a hard couple of days, couple of weeks, and couple of months as we go into the recovery. But we're in this together. We have team members that are going to be affected. We know our community is going to be affected, but we'll get through this just one day at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you have described, there in Florida, you have been dealing with a very challenging hurricane season in 2024. There's been a lot said about the federal government's response in terms of funding and help, etc. What's been your experience of the help you've received to deal with this?
We have an incredible partnership with FEMA, and they have been by our side through all of these storms. They have meetings with us morning, noon, and night, and the assistance that they've been able to provide to help our community get back on their feet has been incredible. They have been at a disaster resource center, both for Hurricane Debbie as well as Hurricane Helene, and we know that they'll be back up and running as soon as they are able to, right here for Hurricane Milton.
Okay. Genevieve Judge, good to talk to you again, and we wish you all the best as you assess the challenge when you do able to go outside and see what's going on. Thank you for talking to us again on BBC News. Just to say that FEMA is the federal emergency agency that responds in these kind of crises. Brenda Griffiths lives in Sarasota as well. She's been living there for 8 years. She did not evacuate and described to me moments ago what it was like when Milton made landfall.
We've had, I suppose, the last 4 or 5 hours of this, and the worst bits were the start of the eye of the hurricane coming in.
Just describe what that was like, because it's quite an eerie moment, isn't it?
It is. That as the front of the eye comes to you, there was terrible wind and rain, and we are in a very good building, thank the Lord, a hurricane-proof building, 150-mile-an-hour winds on these the glass we've got, hurricane-proof glass. So we're in a very secure building. We're one of the few. We were lucky, along with a number of other people who stayed behind.
And you're on the 7th floor as well, so you're higher.
Yeah, and I watched the glass moving, which it's supposed to. But I watched it bowing, sort of coming back and forward, and the steel bits, and I could feel it rattling. And then we had about an hour of that, and then it went eerily quiet. And we went out on the balcony, and you couldn't see a leaf move. It was really spooky. And it was warm, but nothing, you wouldn't have known what we'd just gone through for a couple of hours. And then that stayed for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half, in the cone, inside the eye of the hurricane, but nothing moves. And then it started again, and we got the back end of it, and everything, power transformers were blowing out. It was like sparks going off around the place. And a lot of the area around us is without power at the moment. It's in darkness. Our generator kicked in. We've lost power 2-3 times tonight since the hurricane eye came in. I went out on the balcony a few moments ago before I came on air here, and there's the sound of generators everywhere in the condo buildings which have kicked in because the main power supply is out. And if you look around towards downtown, there's no power at the moment. There's a lot of places that are in darkness here.
And Brenda, I presume if you preparing for this, you've got essentials for what, a period of time, because of course, you know, once this hurricane has passed, it's then all about the aftermath, isn't it?
Well, I filled up every pan, buckets. The bath is filled up with water because the water hasn't been cut off yet, but it could be. We got food supplies in, everything that you need, really. Made sure that we had enough of everything, and particularly water. We've got plenty of bottles of water too.
You've explained why you chose to stay. Your building is robust and said to be hurricane-proof or whatever. What about those that you know who've had to go, who've had to evacuate?
I've had a couple of friends who've left and have gone to Atlanta because they felt vulnerable in their buildings, in their homes, not so much concrete buildings like this one. But there's 26 residents have remained in our building, and a number of my friends have all remained as well in their areas and their buildings because they trust the building. But you never know. And you've got to understand that this storm also, this started as a tropical storm, and with a matter of hours, it became a Category 5 hurricane, which took everybody surprised. So, you know, it was a difficult decision, really, as to what to do, try and draw in that long line trying to drive out of the state. Flights stopped on Tuesday, so there were no flights out of here. So it was quite a difficult moment there.
And also, you know, as you say, flights had stopped. If you were going to try and evacuate by car, that in itself is quite dangerous, isn't it, in many ways, because there were just millions trying to do that and the traffic jams, etc.
Yes, well, you will have seen the photographs, as I did on the internet, of lines and lines and lines of traffic. And I did speak to some friends who went to Atlanta from here, who took them 12 hours on a journey which normally takes them 6 or 7 hours. And they were driving at no more than 6 miles an hour as they drove up there. So it was not a pleasant way to get out of the state. And you've got to remember, Florida is a very, very long state. It's not a short one.
Brenda Griffiths there, who has been living in Sarasota for 8 years. She used to work for us, actually, at the BBC, talking to me just moments ago about her experience there. We can now join our correspondent, Tom Bateman, who is in Orlando. Hello to you, Tom. What's the latest where you are?
Well, over the last hour or so, the brunt of this storm has been inflicting itself on this central part of Florida around Orlando here. You get a sense of just how wet it is. We had a warning of flash flooding about an hour and a half ago that expected to reach its peak in the next hour or so. So it's extremely wet. The winds have died down a bit, actually, in the last hour or so. And as we were driving down here, driving south down the interstate highway, you know, the winds really began to pick up. The rain began lashing down. We had a very dark grey sky sort of hanging low in front of us. You could see how this thing was beginning to move in. But one of the biggest elements about this and the biggest danger so far appears to have been the tornadoes that were being spawned by the incoming hurricane during the day itself, and including on the Atlantic coast, on the other side of the state from where the hurricane moved in, with reports that we've been mentioning of a number of deaths there, and the local sheriff talking about recovery work at a leisure resort taking place where he says that they've had fatalities. He spoke of 17 tornadoes in around 20 minutes, which gives you a sense of the scale of this thing. At the moment, it feels like it's going to be some hours, you know, really before we get daylight here, that people start to come out and get a sense of just how much damage there is.
So it's a waiting game at the moment. People are being told to stay indoors. It's too dangerous to go anywhere right now until it's fully passed through, and then it's an assessment of what needs to be done next.
Yeah, absolutely, and particularly on the Gulf Coast, where the hurricane barreled in, winds of up to 120 miles an hour, those very dangerous storm surges that cause immediate flooding and, can tear away a lot of the infrastructure there. You were just hearing from your guest in Sarasota about things like exploding power transformers. We've heard lots of reports of that kind of thing. And that's where the real danger lies. That's why everyone from President Biden downwards was warning people for days to evacuate. Otherwise, they were literally risking their lives, according to these officials. So a combination at the moment of, evacuees who have moved to further north in the state. Some people come to places like this, away from the coast, because there is less risk. And everyone else basically hunkering down and waiting, as you say.